projecting on your partner.
Providing, protecting, being a great dad, being a great guy. They don't work in marriage. I can't wait to talk about this with my wife.
Your wife withholding sex from you.
I'm Cass.
I'm Kathryn.
Hey, welcome to the MorrowMarriage podcast. And guys, if you're getting true value, you're inspired, hopefully with faith and not hope, because we came back from the depths of hell and we want to show you a better way. I'm not falling for this again. Job sex on a billboard. Why you don't need the apology.
We're MorrowMarriage.
Let's flip divorce statistics with the new marriage.
Welcome to the MorrowMarriage podcast, guys. Today I have got a good one.
What is it?
Projecting on your partner. Ooh, I like this one a lot because, well, if you're an asshole, you constantly project on your partner. And almost everybody becomes an asshole when they defend themselves. And
I think not almost everybody. I think probably everybody.
Yeah, everybody. Yeah. And you can think about it like you can deny that, but even if your tone is in check, even if you're not like I was this towering over her abusive prick, like at the end of the day, you're not thinking thoughtfully when you're defending yourself, and we'll call that being an asshole. Okay. And so I think the biggest thing that people project is, oh, by the way, thank you. This was also another question from another listener. So I'm just loving this.
Awesome.
The biggest thing is projecting your insecurities. I think your fears of not getting your needs met, and the pain of not feeling good enough for your partner, not feeling truly loved or understood or validated. What do you think?
What's your actual question about that?
It's not a question. It's.
But you said, what do you think? So what do I think about?
I think that the biggest
projection is the insecurity and the fear.
Insecurity and fear, but really it's not the fear of the divorce, the fear of the fight, the fear of the cheating, the affair. It's actually the fear of not being good enough. So when we get defensive, we attack and go into the attack defense cycle. What do you think?
What do I think? I think that's a really good question, because I think that in a partnership, I mean, I'll use ours as an example.
Okay.
So we have one of us who grew up in trauma and abuse and neglect, who, ended up developing himself into a narcissist. And there's a lot of feelings of shame and not feeling good enough. We have the other side of the equation where I grew up. I like to say I grew up in a bubble. And so, yes, there was some trauma, I guess, it's minor compared to everybody that talks about having trauma. And I've always been very confident. I had a very strong father figure. Here's my father, not a father figure, but I had a very strong father figure in my life who was my dad. And I believe that he's responsible for creating me into the woman that I am today because of what happened in my younger years. He just always praised me and, edified me and just did all the things.
Go to the marriage now. Go to the projection.
Yeah. So when you have our dynamic, I don't know that necessarily that is the biggest. I don't know, because I think for you, yes, you would project insecurity and fear onto me. I think that I would definitely project onto you, but I probably would have projected ideals of perfectionism and the opposite side of the spectrum.
Okay. So then let's build on that. So do you think, I'm thinking this attack defend thing, I'm thinking like when you're projecting the ideals, right? Is that not your own defending and your own, this is the way it should be?
Yes, but I don't think it stems from insecurity. So mine would stem from, how dare you accuse me of not being who I think I am? And I believe his would stem from, how dare you call me out on the things that I say I am and I don't believe?
Okay, I can get behind that. So I just believe that the more that we could focus on being attentive to our partners. You hear us talk about this all the time, from giving, edifying, loving them through their pain, understanding that whatever you hate about your partner right now, you also enabled, meaning you have to take responsibility. The more you can show up in the correct way as a person that you're proud of, things that you project onto your partner, they go away, right? You stop attacking. Like, there's something that I do quite commonly, and that would be like when we were setting up things around the house. it's a big house. And so you were yelling a little bit. You didn't know where I was, I think. And I was like, why are you yelling at me? Right? That's me projecting my insecurities from whatever. I don't even know, because it was so moot that it didn't really matter. I didn't really reflect too much on it. But maybe I should. Baby, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
At the end of the day, the more that you take responsibility for who you want to be, I think that you just end up giving, and there is no projecting, right? But I'm going to give you something here too.
Which is hard, by the way.
Yeah,
Let's use that specific example.
Okay.
So it is a really big house, and there's like separate wings. And so I was walking down the hallway. I didn't know where he was. And so I'm yelling because it's a big house. And all of a sudden he came out of a door that was like 4 feet away from me. And he was like, "You're yelling right now." And I was like, "No, I'm not. Like, watch your body language. I'm yelling because I thought I had to project my voice."
Right.
But and he, because he I probably, that was a little bit of a trigger. Right?
Sure, yeah.
And so
kids yelling triggers me.
And so I defended myself, saying, "No, I'm not," or I got a little bit like, "How dare you accuse me of yelling? I'm actually just trying to let you hear me."
But you didn't say any of that.
You douche.
Yeah,
but that's, and so we both had this idea of like, "Why are you yelling at me?" And I'm like, "Why are you accusing me of yelling?" Obviously I'm yelling because. So we both, this is a really great example. We both had the spirit of defensiveness rise up, where I wanted to explain why I was yelling, and he wanted to ask me why I was yelling at him, because he assumed, whatever it was.
Now, I really like this a lot, because some of you guys confuse things like gaslighting, right? This is really just projection. I'm projecting that she's yelling at me.
And I was yelling.
Right? But it was not at me.
Right.
Okay? And so I just want you to understand, it's going to always go back to giving more.
Mm-hmm.
So I should have, just realized right now, I should have reflected sooner, because I could have easily said, "You're not yelling at me. I know that." And
he could have responded, "Hey, baby, I'm right here. Why are you yelling?" Cover his ears.
See, what did we say in the last episode? Use the damn tools, right? And so, but actually, here's a good reflection I had recently. It was just like 2 days ago. Someone was talking to Bill, and in our conversation, we're like, we're our own worst enemies. Like, I had a great conversation with you later after he left, because I was like, if it wasn't for us, like, our wives are better at using their tools than we're using at ours. So
actually, what he said was, if you're 99% there,
that's what I said. Yeah.
And then like, what the F is our problem? And I was like, wait, can you reframe that? When you say when you're 99% there, do you, like, who are you referring to?
There's projection right there. It's what is our problem? We don't have problems. I still have reality checks that I need to do. I still have to focus on.
And I have my own problems too, but it's amazing the way that the power of reflection and the power of admission, like you admit where you messed up,
where you suck,
or where you
messed
suck.
up, see what just happened there? What was I telling you about projecting? I said one of the things you have to do is take responsibility. I said, I should have reflected sooner. Like, there's a bunch of reflections, right? I should have reflected sooner. I should have said something. I should have said something sooner. There's a bunch in there. I could use my tools more. And what did she say? Well, we both have things that we have to take responsibility for, right? She also talked about her defensiveness earlier. You see, guys, you want what we have. We don't save it. We create the new. You start taking responsibility for everything you suck at, for all the mistakes that you make. You love your partner through it. We both know that we have strengths and weaknesses. In a superpower couple, in the new marriage, you take your strengths and you lift your partner's weaknesses. Mm-hmm. Kathryn actually can get right in your face. She's really raw. She's super blunt, and sharp is the word she uses.
I'm very sharp.
Okay.
I try not to be, but I am.
She does yell a lot. I actually mumble a lot because I try to go the exact opposite of who I used to be.
And I'm like, what?
So it's just part of loving. Like, so she has to use her strengths to lift my weakness when I'm mumbling, and I have to use my strengths better to lift her when she's yelling when she doesn't need to. Right? That's kind of a bad example because but she's loud, really loud, and I have this like ear problems probably because I got screamed at so much when I was a kid.
Can I go a little further in this?
Sure.
So here's something that you need to think about. So he's talking about taking responsibility. So in that instance, I'm being loud right now. Do you guys hear it?
Yeah, I noticed today she's talking much louder than me.
Yeah, I'm, and even if you listen to our podcast, I'm loud.
Mm-hmm. I'm only loud when I yell at you.
You have a really sexy voice, though.
Oh, stop.
Yeah, you do. Okay, so back to the podcast. Back to the podcast. So when I was yelling down the hall And I was trying to, like he said, big house. So I thought I had to yell. I didn't know what room he was in. He came to my face like 4 feet from my face. And I was like, whoa. And he got defensive. Why are you yelling
like
at me?
Mr. D's just pop up.
And he had, yes. And then his body language was defensive, and both of his fingers came up.
I
and
talk with my hands.
He does. And then I defended myself. But what I reflected on, and sometimes you need to reflect yourself. You don't always need to, like he's reflecting on the podcast. I'm going to reflect on the podcast. It's not something that we need to be like, hey, remember that time I yelled at you in the hallway? Or, hey, remember the time I used my 2 fingers in the hallway? Like, no, you don't have to always do that. But my reflection was, I probably had been yelling all day. Maybe it was at him. Maybe I was getting the kids to do things. And so when I came
yelling at me, you got to clarify that for them.
Oh yeah, not at. Not at
yelling
anyone.
to me like from across the house.
From
Can
the
you help me with this?
backyard.
I need this
looking
now.
for even the yard is huge. So like, honey, like the honey.
I love you. We had one of those in there.
We did. We had a lot of those in there. But even like the honey-do list, where like, is this done yet, or do I do it? Like, so there was probably a lot of like yelling. It's a big house, and it's on 2 acres, and there's actually 2 houses. We're in the second house right now. It's a pool house. So my reflection is, the reason that he came out defensive with his body language, and if you're not watching me on YouTube, I'm doing his body language. Go watch it on YouTube. The reason he did that was probably because while he's been trying to get things done in the house, I have been the one managing the kids, snapping my fingers and trying to get stuff done. And so he's probably seen that, and he might feel a little bit triggered. And so I need to recognize that that's why he came out with his fingers like that.
Hold on, guys. Do you guys notice what gesture I was making? I mean, maybe we should all reflect on this. If you can't see it on YouTube, she's drawing a heart.
Oh,
yeah. So
nice.
Maybe I was doing it stat response after all.
Don't gaslight me.
Don't
gaslight.
Okay, guys. See you next time.
Bye.